Before this story really begins, pause for just a second. If you've ever waited for someone who never came, if you've ever felt the weight of an empty chair across from you, then this story is for you. And if stories like this touch something real in your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because every small click helps keep stories like Michael Bennett's alive and reaching the people who need them most. The chair was already there when Michael Bennett unlocked the workshop door that morning. It always was. A simple wooden chair he'd made years ago with his own hands, sanded smooth, sturdy, honest, everything Michael tried to be in life. He ran his fingers along its backrest before hanging his jacket, the smell of sawdust and old pine wrapping around him like a memory. Outside, the town was waking up, but inside the workshop, time moved differently. It always had since the day the chair stopped being filled. Michael was a carpenter, the kind people trusted without asking too many questions. He fixed doors that wouldn't close, tables that wobbled, and sometimes lives that felt just as uneven. He was also a father. And though he never said it out loud, he was still waiting. He remembered when the chair wasn't empty. Back then, the workshop echoed with laughter and small, clumsy footsteps. His son, Daniel, used to sit there every afternoon, swinging his legs, asking questions that had no easy answers. Why does wood crack? How do you know when something is finished? Why does Mom cry when she thinks I'm asleep? Michael answered the best he could, shaping words the way he shaped wood carefully, hoping they'd hold. Life hadn't broken all at once. It splintered slowly. Bills piled up. Michael worked longer hours. Daniel grew quieter. Then came the night of the argument, sharp words thrown like nails without a hammer. Michael told himself he was tired, that he didn't mean it, that he'd apologize tomorrow. But tomorrow came with a slammed door, a bag packed too quickly, and a boy who didn't look back. At first, Michael was angry. He told himself Daniel would return when reality hit hard enough. Weeks passed. Then months. Anger softened into worry, and worry into something heavier, something that settled deep in his chest and refused to move. He left the chair where it was. Not as a reminder of failure, but as a promise. When Daniel came back, there would be a place for him. Years went by, measured in seasons, and saw blades worn thin. Michael aged in quiet ways, more gray in his beard, slower movements, longer pauses before standing up. The town changed too. New families moved in, old ones moved away. But every evening, Michael closed the shop, wiped his hands on a rag, and glanced at the empty chair. Still waiting. People noticed, of course. They always do. Some asked gentle questions. Others avoided the topic entirely. Michael answered politely and changed the subject. Pain shared too often can start to feel like a performance, and he didn't want that. This wasn't a story for sympathy. It was his life. One rainy afternoon, a woman named Sarah came into the shop with a broken table leg. She was new in town, a single mother with tired eyes and a child who clung to her coat. While Michael worked, the little girl sat in the empty chair, her feet dangling just like Daniel's once had. For a moment, Michael's hands froze. The past rushed in so fast it stole his breath. The girl smiled at him. "My name's Lily," she said. Michael smiled back, slow and careful. "That's a good chair for thinking," he told her. That day changed something. Lily and Sarah came back again and again, sometimes with furniture, sometimes just to talk. Lily filled the workshop with questions, and Michael found himself answering them without the ache he expected. The chair wasn't empty anymore, at least not all the time. And yet, every night after they left, the waiting returned. One evening, Michael found an old voicemail on his phone he'd never had the courage to delete. Daniel's voice, younger, uncertain. "Dad. I don't know if you want to hear this. I just wanted to say. I'm okay." The message cut off there. Michael sat alone in the workshop, the chair across from him silent, and for the first time in years, he cried openly. Not because Daniel was gone, but because he was still out there somewhere, living a life Michael didn't know how to enter. That night, Michael did something he'd been afraid to do. He wrote a letter. Not long. Not dramatic. Just honest. He talked about the chair. About the workshop. About how waiting didn't mean standing still. It meant believing. He didn't know where to send it, so he kept it folded in his pocket, close to his heart. Weeks later, on a quiet Sunday morning, the shop door opened with a sound Michael knew by heart. Footsteps he hadn't heard in years crossed the floor. He didn't look up right away. He was afraid his hope would make a fool of him. "Dad," a voice said, older but unmistakable. Michael turned slowly. Daniel stood there, taller, worn around the edges, carrying his own weight of regret. The empty chair stood between them like a bridge. "I didn't know if you'd still be here," Daniel said. Michael swallowed. "I am," he replied. "I always was." They didn't rush. Some reunions aren't explosions, they're careful repairs. Daniel sat in the chair. Michael handed him a piece of sandpaper. No speeches. Just work, side by side, the way they used to. The waiting didn't vanish in an instant, but it softened, transformed into something else, gratitude, maybe, or peace. The chair was never really about absence. It was about hope. About leaving space for love to return. Michael Bennett was a carpenter, a father, and a man who learned that waiting isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the strongest thing you can do. So if there's an empty chair in your life, don't rush to throw it away. Maybe it's not empty. Maybe it's just holding space for a miracle that hasn't arrived yet. And if this story touched you, remember to like the video and subscribe, because stories like this remind us that even after years of silence, love still knows the way home. Before you scroll away, before the next video steals your attention, let me ask you something quietly. Is there someone you're still waiting for, even if you pretend you're not? If that question hit a nerve, stay with me. And if stories like this make you feel seen, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps these stories reach hearts that are still healing. Michael Bennett never moved the chair. It sat at the small kitchen table, pushed in neatly, untouched, as if someone might walk in any second and pull it out. Every morning, Michael brewed 2 cups of coffee out of habit. One he drank. The other went cold. He told himself it was just routine, but deep down, he knew the truth. That chair wasn't furniture. It was hope carved into silence. Michael was a carpenter by trade. 48 years old. Rough hands, quiet eyes, the kind of man who spoke more with his actions than his words. Wood made sense to him. You could break it, split it, even burn it, but with patience, it could be shaped into something strong again. Life hadn't been so cooperative. He used to build things with his son. Jacob had been 12 when he first learned how to hold a hammer properly. Michael remembered correcting his grip, laughing when Jacob bent the nail instead of driving it straight. Those afternoons were loud and messy and full of sawdust and dreams. Jacob used to sit in that chair at the table afterward, telling his father everything: school stories, stupid jokes, big plans about leaving town someday and seeing the world. And then one day, he did leave. The night Jacob walked out was quiet in a way that screamed. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just disappointment hanging in the air like smoke. Michael had said the wrong thing again. Tried to protect by controlling. Tried to guide by commanding. Jacob looked at him with tired eyes and said, "You never listen, Dad." Then he was gone. At first, Michael waited confidently. Sons came back. That's what they did. But days turned into months, and months into years. Birthdays passed. Holidays echoed. The chair stayed empty. The town aged alongside Michael. New buildings rose where old ones fell. Customers came and went. Everyone knew Michael as the reliable carpenter, the widower, the quiet man with the polite smile. No one knew how many nights he sat at that table, staring at the chair, replaying conversations he wished he could rebuild like a broken cabinet. One winter evening, Michael found an old-school project while cleaning the attic. A birdhouse Jacob had made, crooked and uneven, but painted proudly in blue and yellow. On the bottom, in a child's handwriting, it read, "For Dad." Because he fixes things. Michael sat on the attic floor and laughed once, sharp and broken, because this was one thing he couldn't fix. The waiting changed him. It made him gentler. He started listening more to customers, to strangers, to himself. He volunteered at the community center, teaching kids how to work with wood. One boy, about Jacob's age when he left, always chose the chair closest to Michael. The sight of it hurt and healed at the same time. Years later, on a slow afternoon, Michael's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Dad," the voice said, hesitant, older, familiar in a way that made Michael's knees weak. Michael couldn't speak at first. He just closed his eyes and breathed. "I didn't know if you'd pick up," Jacob continued. "I didn't know if there'd still be a place for me." Michael swallowed hard. His gaze drifted to the chair. "There's always been a place," he said softly. Jacob came home 3 days later. No dramatic music. No perfect apology. Just two men standing in the doorway, unsure how to step forward. The house smelled the same. The table was the same. The chair waited.